John, what's up, man? Found you through a group that we both a part of, Jersey Jerry. And first off, how you doing?
Good, good, man. Blessed to be here. Happy to chat.
Yeah, man. I was telling you before we started to record that, I like to gear episodes around certain topics and stories, and your life and your story and your goals and mission fill a lot of those different buckets. And I kind of want to cover it all a little bit and start off with, so you were born in Connecticut.
Yeah, I was born in Danbury, Connecticut.
What was I read in your profile you're a big baseball player, but like growing up, what was life like for you?
Really not a lot to complain about. And I talk to a lot of addicts and people in mental health. Their parents aren't there. Very abusive relationships, poor, whatever it may be. I really had that like medium copacetic lifestyle. I had both my parents, my younger brother in my life, church on Sundays. Parents prayed with us when we were kids before we went to bed. My life was revolved around baseball. I mean, every weeknight was practice, weekends were travel. Um, you know, that was my really only insight in life was to make it to major leagues. Grew up going to Yankee Stadium, lived 45 minutes away.
Nice.
Uh, got the opportunity through a family friend a couple times to like do the equipment for the Yankees. So just like Yankees and baseball were my life. And that was really it. My dad worked a lot. My mom they had me on the younger side than my brother. So my mom was like putting herself through school while working, while raising us. But very loving parents, big family. Everyone lived right here in Connecticut. So probably 15 cousins that were like brothers and sisters, all my
Hmm.
aunts and uncles around. So yeah, it was not a lot to write home about to complain in that early,
Sure.
you know?
I can relate with you on that. I think when I try and tell my story at times, like I tell people, like I don't have a lot to complain about, really. You know what I mean? I grew up with a great family and uh, great neighborhood, great friends, like all that sort of stuff. And I feel like sometimes people don't understand like addiction and can come from, any social class, any race, it doesn't matter at all. For drugs and alcohol, what was your relationship with them like when you started to use alcohol or drugs early on?
With drugs and alcohol.
Yeah, like did you drink in high school? Was it more or less social thing? Like how did it kind of start?
So it's actually that's why I like to share my story because it's and how this all started is because it's not what people usually think. So I try to kill the stigma. Being such a Yankee fan, my idol was Derek Jeter. And his whole thing was like clean cut. So I hated drugs, I hated alcohol up
Yep.
before high school. My dad smoked cigarettes, like thought it was the dumbest thing ever. It was like, how can you smoke something that kills you? And oddly enough, you gotta be careful what you resent in life because I really even like and when I got in high school, I resented addicts. I used to
Sure.
like hated them. So maybe I felt it coming or something. But I was just very ignorant to addiction, didn't understand it. Addiction ran in my family. But yeah, I mean, I had a couple incidences that all changed. I had when I was 13, my friend's dad died in front of us playing paintball. That's where I started to lose my faith. I never prayed again until I got sober. Um, and then
Y'all were
the
playing
next year,
paintball?
yeah, so we were playing paintball in like a quarry woods where I lived in Connecticut, in my neighborhood, and we just had like 15 on 15. Two dads were there to chaperone.
Yeah.
He was on my team, and he just tripped. I thought he tripped and fell, so I like laughed, tried to get him up, and it was like his fourth massive heart attack.
Damn.
Yeah, so that was the first time I kind of saw like my trauma.
Yep.
And then other things just kept happening. I had next year I was all excited for baseball. I ruptured my spleen on a trampoline,
Mm.
and then didn't realize it was because of mono. So the second I got out of the ICU, I went back in. So my throat closed up. I was there
Damn.
another week. And a couple years later, then it was just off and running. First it was anger, and then it's all try to drink tonight. Right away, I just drank more than everyone to the extreme, smoked more than everyone, and didn't get to drugs until about the halfway through my senior year, probably.
What was, did you, so at the time, I think it's always interesting for addicts to kind of reflect, internally. Did you know that you were maybe drinking more than most, that you wanted to drink more than some of your friends? Is that something you could look back on and say, like, I kind of recognized it, but I just didn't know what it was?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was the best feeling ever. Like I always tell people, alcohol and drugs worked for me inside. It
Yeah.
was the release I
Yeah.
needed. It calmed everything, uh, but it ruined everything outside. And then when it got worse and worse, it would ruin everything on the inside long term.
Sure.
But really quickly, yeah. I mean, in high school, my friends had to stop hanging out with me because every party I went to, everyone's having fun. They're high schoolers. I'm beating someone up. I'm sleeping with someone's girlfriend. I'm crying. Someone else is crying. It was just a
Yep.
disaster, like every time.
Yeah. No, I can relate. It's just like, and at the time, like you said, that's a good point. It worked for you internally at the time. And I think that's how it is for a lot of people. Like they're able to be more social or they're able to like calm their nerves a little bit. They're able to like get through other stresses in life. But long term, as we all know, that just doesn't work as a coping mechanism. Um, for high school, what was after high school? Did you go to college? What was life like for you then?
So really quickly, I got into opiates my senior year.
And that's
Really
the
quick.
big time opioids, like
Yeah.
2007, 2000. I mean, still is now, but that was like before people really knew what was going on.
No, I mean that was like we said, that was our age. So it was like that was when the pandemic of that started.
Yep.
Epidemic. So yeah, I mean, I got into that first, and then to be able to like support my habit and just hang around the wrong people, I quickly got into selling, trafficking.
Hmm.
I live close to the city, so we would like drive to the city, get a bunch of pills, bring them back, and distribute them here in Connecticut. And I went to college for one day. I mean, that's how bad or just addiction could leak into the rest of your life. I walked in, the teacher said, "You're late. You can't be late to my class." And I was such a punk. I was like, "I pay you to teach me. Don't tell me when." And I got up and never went back to school. Uh,
Damn.
and I think my whole thing was baseball, and I hurt my leg my senior year. And my addiction creeping in got me failed off teams. So I just knew, like, I don't know. There's no reason to be here. I mean, I don't know what I want to do. I don't want to learn anything. I was
Sure.
here to play baseball, and I'm not playing baseball. So
Yeah. I mean, I can relate. Like somebody leaves, you lose something like that, something that you dedicate so much time to, then you're just lost. And depending on how you cope with it, you just go down, different paths for it. For for the family at this point, for your friends at this point, were they recognizing what was going on? Do they know you have had trouble with opioids? And how were they like communicating with you? And were you communicating back with them?
So first it was like I said, the anger. I mean, coming out of high school into those like college years, even though I was in college, my early 20s, I was just a psychopath. I was dealing with so much, I think, anxiety, PTSD, you know, everything from what I've been through that, and just addiction. If I was told I couldn't go somewhere, I'd put my head through a door. My dad was a little more old school. He worked 13 hours a day. If he was a little rough on us, I was getting his face or like punch holes in my wall.
Hmm.
Um, and I wasn't like that. I was just such a happy young kid before that. So my brother went through a lot, watching me and my dad fight a lot. I put my mom and dad through hell. Um, and probably the early 20s, they were just wondering what's going on. They didn't
Yeah,
really get it.
totally.
And then finally, I think 24 was the first time. It was just, they knew some, I mean, no
They
money. I'm
know,
working
but
all yeah,
yeah.
they knew. And finally, my dad pressed me after an argument with my girlfriend at their house. And he was just like, "You could tell us and we'll help you, or just pack your stuff and get out." And they didn't know if it was gambling, if it was drugs, steroids, whatever. And I was just like, "Yeah, I got a problem with opiates." And that was the first time I tried to get help.
Were you pretty open to getting help that first time, or did it take a lot of? I know for me, I'll give you my what I did, and it took me a little while, but I knew I needed help. So once like my parents and my sister stepped in, I was like, all right, I agree. Like I totally need help, but I know that's not the case for a lot of people too.
Yeah, I think I was 50-50. I was like, I would love the help, and so sober sounds great, but I was still only probably 5 years in. And it's all I knew.
Hmm.
So I willingly took the help. But I don't think I really thought it was possible at that time. I didn't get sober till 5 years later. And that time it wasn't the best for me. Instead of like rehab and detox, my parents were advised to put me on Suboxone through a doctor.
Hmm.
Uh, and that was a total waste of my time. I mean, giving an addict drugs to medicate himself. Some people work for, I won't bash it, but
Yeah,
For me,
sure.
I did it for 30 days, didn't get spiritually or mentally better, and then I realized I hated the feeling of waking up and still needing a drug, so I just
Hmm.
sold it and went back to dope.
Yeah. It's a tough feeling. Like you said, it works for some people. Um, I never went that route. I don't know if it would have been what would have worked for me or not, but I always do find that interesting. For for the times in and out of rehab, was it what was always bringing you back?
I think just not having a solution, not fixing the inside. I'd get
Hmm.
back. For instance, I went to the first time on the way to rehab, I went to Miami and Pompano Beach, South Florida, got jacked, got tan, came back and was like, oh, I'm cured.
Hmm. You're not.
And got a paycheck that next Friday, got drunk, did coke, and got back on heroin.
Yeah.
Uh, another time I did got out. I was presented the 12 steps. Actually, my last rehab, applied myself for 7 months, and my whole life turned around. And then
Hmm.
again, thought I was like, came to step 12 to like help other people. I'm like, help other people. I'm 28. I'm single. I got no money. I was like, it's time to change my life, and ended up relapsing.
Yeah.
That's when I finally learned, it's a lifelong thing. I got to continue to help people.
Yeah.
So.
That's the thing. Like, if you don't work on yourself internally, it's honestly never really gonna work. You're always gonna be still fighting those inner demons that might have taken you to drugs and addiction in the first place. Um, but also just realizing like you can use this as a tool to help other people and bring people in. Was that when you went to your last treatment, rehab, detox, whatever it was that your mindset going in? Did you know this time might be different? Or at the time, did it seem like one of the times in the past?
No, I knew it'd be different. Before I went, everything bottled up. It was pouring over the top. I had my seventh arrest in a couple of years. I had warrants in Connecticut, New York.
Hmm.
I was facing a minimum of 4 years. I'm 6'1", 6'2", and I weighed 140 pounds. I was snorting heroin. Whatever would react would make my lungs like fail, like they'd be wheezing all day. Like it was just, I felt death like a couple days away.
Yeah.
Um, and I was tired of it. That was the best thing when I help people get sober all the time. It's like, if you're really just telling me you're sick and tired of it, I know you're almost sober.
Yeah.
It's like, it wasn't the arrest. It wasn't, I mean, they all bottled up, but it was just like, this just ain't fun like
Yeah.
anymore. And, I had one incident that happened. So they sent me to detox in Rhode Island, even though then I went to rehab in Connecticut, and that's 3 hours away from here. My parents worked all the time, hustlers. I'm a grown man. I'm 28 at this time. They had to take a Saturday, drive me 3 hours to Rhode Island, drive themselves back. So 6 hour round trip. Took the whole day basically. I'm there 2 days, and they start pulling me in the office, telling me, "Oh, actually, we don't take your insurance." And I started snapping on them. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
why the hell did you have me drive the hell out here? Like my parents drove 6 hours round trip. Like I wouldn't have came here. So long story short, it created an issue that my mom had to come take the next day off and come pick me up. And something just snapped. It was like uh what I like kind of like a fourth and fifth step in the 12 steps for me is like I just saw my life in front of me. I was like, what am
Hmm.
I like I remember yelling in my mom's car to myself, saying just like, bro, I'm done with this. Like, you're grown, you're not baby John anymore. Your parents are driving around the world trying to help you, like taking days off
Sure.
work, crying. So I finally just felt done, and I was like, you know what, I need to start listening and taking advice and get the help I need.
Had you been in the program before, the 12-step program?
Yeah, but because I was so like in the beginning of high school was alcohol and stuff,
Hmm.
and then it was basically 8, 10 years of opiates. When I got out of each rehab, my aunt's friend, I was like 50 years old, this guy was sober, would take me to AA meetings. And, I just didn't feel, I was young, I was 24 when I first started going, and then he was
Yeah.
28. Everyone's double my age. They're talking about alcohol, and I'm like, other than a couple strip club nights, I haven't drank alcohol that much. I'm an addict, like, and I didn't relate to the feeling, so I made myself an outcast.
True.
They said do the steps. I didn't really do the steps. They'd say pray. I wouldn't really pray, but I'd go to meetings every Saturday and Sunday. And then basically on that last relapse I told you about, after doing the steps, I didn't ever went back to opiates 2018, but I drank for a year straight at Coke. So I kind of proved to
Yeah.
myself I am an alcoholic. Yeah, now I fit in. Let's do this. And
Yeah.
then now it's part of my life.
Nah, it's similar to me. I got off benzodiazepines, and I thought that was my only problem. But then after that, I just realized that drinking was now the new benzodiazepine for me, Xanax or whatnot. And that's when I was like, damn, like I thought I was just like on this one thing, but it's really alcohol too. And that's when I, had to find my way off of alcohol as well. With so I think March 3rd, 2019 is your sobriety date. Um, talk to me through like the days leading up to that date, and then I want to get into kind of what you've been doing since.
Absolutely. I had a bad run. I mean, I was doing the program, kind of like I said, but I wasn't really contacting my sponsor. I wasn't doing the steps, and I would just they used to call me like the relapse king. I would go to meetings, get 30 days, even 90 days, and like just go relapse drinking, and then get 2 weeks. But I was always honest. I never lied. So I'm actually proud of myself that I kept showing up, and I was actually, I think, being honest saved my life. A lot of
Hmm.
people are afraid to say they relapsed. Sure, I was afraid, but I knew I was like, I need to, or I'm gonna die. So I just kept raising my hand, like, oh, I drank again last night. And they're like, bro, you just celebrated 30 days last night. And I'm like, yeah, but then I got bombed. And they're like, how? And that just went on for like a year and a half. And then I had maybe like, again, 60 days or something. And I was running a bar, restaurant. My friends came through. We had a DJ at night. Thought it was a good idea to drink, and made a fool out of myself. Got belligerent, got coked out. Um, Woke up the next morning on my friend's couch with bloody knuckles. Thought I pissed the bed, but there was a water bottle underneath me. So my
Oh
boys still
man.
call me piss pants, but I say it's a water bottle. Some girl I used to manage at a call center next to me. And my idea looked at her, said, "You want to go to a hotel?" And we just kept drinking. She was not like me. I think she was looking at me like, "What the hell's wrong with this kid?" But I think that day I kind of made a deal with myself. Like, I'm wasn't planning to drink myself to death, but I was like, this is gonna be my last time. I'm gonna drink everything I possibly can next 12 hours, and if I'm alive tomorrow morning, we get sober. And we stayed in that hotel room drinking around the clock. I think she left at 8 p.m. I stayed there alone, and I woke up the next day. It was actually my first day at a real estate coordinator job
Dang.
for
Not a
USAA.
good first day.
No, and obviously woke up ridiculously hungover, and knuckles still bloody, just in a fog. And I said, "All right, we're here, so let's do it." And that was the last time I drank.
Damn. Was at the time with your family and friends who had, kind of seen you go through the last 10 years, when you told them like this was it, how did they receive it? I'm sure they maybe didn't believe you at first, but like talk me through how you know, go day by day at that point, and then start proving it to the people around you and really start changing the inner workings of your life to make it more sustainable.
So when I first came home from rehab, that's what I did. I was like, "Oh, I'm not drinking anymore." Da da da, and killed it for 7 months. Applied the program. Life got better. Family relationship made amends to my parents, my brother, and then, like I said, just got away from the program 7 months in, and had a relapse, and that was hard. They finally had a glimmer of hope, and I took my dad's car, thought it was mine, kind of crashed it, just like, the whole deal, just terrible. And when I kept relapsing, so I thought it was a good idea as an addict to then move to Yonkers, like right next to the Bronx, New York, and
Mhm.
just drink for that whole year, and just hide from what I just did to my family. Finally hit ahead, came home, told them I was going to do it. I wouldn't really tell them about all those relapses over the next year and a half, but I kept working like going to the program. So they were just proud that like I'd get up and go to meetings at 7 in the morning. They knew I was
Mhm.
trying. And then I realized at that point I was doing it for everyone, and it helped me get off drugs. But I was like, at this point I gotta do it for me. And I really stopped talking about it. I just did it. My dad's old school, hard worker. He's big on show me, don't tell me. And
Sure.
I was like, you know what, I'll solidify a date with them when I get like 3 or 6 months in and I feel comfortable. And I just started working the program, going to meetings, doing the steps, helping other people, praying, meditating, fitness. Started my whole like get lifted thing, which is I had a conversation with my sponsor. I was like 3 months in, felt a relapse coming, and I was like, I don't feel that happy. And he's like, well, what'd you do today? And I was like, well, I woke up, Snapchat this girl, played a little Call of Duty. Like, and he's like, bro, you expect to be happy? And for me, this was earth shattering, this conversation. Some people are probably like, you're an idiot. But I've seen it help a lot of people that life's a lot more simpler. We don't do well with simple. We look for like the depth in things when life's really simple. And
Mhm.
he was like, I call it the spiritual bank account. Like you wake up every day, we all do it zero. No one really backflips out of bed, you know? Like faith that works is dead. You gotta do the work. And he was like, you wake up, you pray, that's $10 in your bank account. You go to the gym, that's $20, so
Yep.
on and so forth. So I started really taking that seriously, and yeah, I started to grow and completed my first year. Probably around 6 months, I started to tell my parents like, "Hey, I have 6 months sober, official now." Like, and they were like, "Wait, we thought you had 6 months like a couple months ago." And I was like, yeah, "Don't ask questions, just I'm doing it, all right." And yeah, things started to get better.
With uh with that, I think it's a good point. Like you think you're gonna get sober and everything's gonna change, but you still gotta do other part of life's work to make yourself personally, and that's just any human in the world. Like there's plenty of miserable people that aren't addicts, just because they don't live a fulfilling life. And as an addict, you think, oh, I'm going to get sober and life's going to be great. And like, yeah, there are going to be things that improve, but you still have to do the other part of life's work to fulfill your life. And that's, I mean, similar outlook for me. It's like, I got to have a good community. I got to be in, communication with people that I love and that support me. I got to go to the gym. Like if I do those things on a daily basis, then, I ultimately am gonna, gonna feel better with you helping others. I know, I know you've mentioned that was a big part of going through the 12 steps. And, when you started working with others, started to see uh, the potential in others and the potential in you. But for you to get out and really start communicating with people, what type of release was that for you? Or like, how did that help you personally?
Honestly, it saved my life. I hate to burst the bubble, but when people are like, "Oh my God, you help thousands," I'm like, "No, I help myself."
True.
I do help other people, but it keeps me sober today. And I do like to help people, but it all started with trying to stay alive. My year sobriety date, 3 days later with COVID, the world shut down.
Hmm.
So I was again knew my failures before were 12 step. But I'm like, I was going to detoxes, speaking, I was sponsoring, and I was like, nah, I can't do any of this. I was chairing meetings. I was like, now I'm stuck in my bedroom. And so I took on like chairing some Zoom meetings and stuff like that. And then halfway through COVID, in 1 week, I had a kid from I grew up with, played football with. Uh, I think he took his own life. Um, 2 days later, what became a good friend that was my roommate in my last rehab overdosed on fentanyl and died. And then 3 days after that, my like a brother, one of my all time childhood best friends, took a Xanax that was pressed with fentanyl and died. So and
Damn.
like beyond, we have COVID going on, family members dying that are old and stuff, and everyone's scared. You know what I mean? Like what's going on with the world? I lose three of my friends in a week, and I call my sponsor and I'm just like, man, I don't know if I could do this. Like I feel like darkness creeping in. Like just the grief is a lot. It's heavy. Like I feel like a drink would help. He was like, help people, and I was just like, how, man? I'm in my room. This Zoom stuff is crap. Like you know, uh, it helps a little, but I need that like personal connection.
Sure.
So I prayed, went on a run, and that's how my whole story with helping others started. And I was told to like treat my addiction, my sobriety, like I treat my addiction, like work just as hard. So I take everything like an addict to the hundredth degree. And I went and prayed, went on a run, cried, and just had like I wouldn't say like God's voice, but just like I have God's like thoughts. Like I just have these genius thoughts that come like once in a while and not from me. Like they just come. And I was praying to God, like, show me how to like, how am I gonna make it through this? And how do I help people? And it hit me like social media. So I started posting on Facebook and uh Instagram my story because I'm like, all these people are dying from my town and surrounding towns. And someone needs to know that like you can make it out, and
Hmm.
it's okay to struggle. So I just posted, hey, you know me, I'm Jonathan, but I'm a year sober. I was a recovering addict, alcoholic, which most of you also know, and drug dealer. You don't have to live this way. If you're struggling, reach out to me. And it just blew up. I started helping people, and went from there. I mean, that I would do like Monday motivations, before and afters of fitness pics, little like my favorite quote, like how it applies to my recovery journey. And it was sick. I was helping people, like you said, in and out of recovery. And then
Mhm.
sadly, a year later, helping people would save me again. July 2021, my brother started to struggle. And surprisingly to me and my parents, the morning he's going to come to his first AA meeting because he thought he might have had a drinking problem, he had a fight with his girlfriend and decided to take his own life. And again, shell shock. That was my biggest fear. Your parents are gonna die.
Mhm.
Friends might die, but my brother was like everything to me, and he was so proud of me helping people. That was immense to my family, my community,
Mhm.
and everyone was like, "You should write a book." And I was like, "What? I don't know how to write a P. I've never read a book." I was like, "I know how to snort pills. Like, how do you want me to write a book?"
Yeah, for
And
real. That seems daunting. Like, I'm
it
staring
was.
at your book right here. It's like, damn, this man wrote a book. Like, how the hell do you write a book?
It was scary. Yeah, that's what my first thing. I was like, "How do you write a book?" And then I sat on that for a while, and I was like, you know what? And I thought of that day. I was like, get lifted, and my social medias took me out of that grief. My brother's real proud. I'll dedicate the book to him, and you know, not let him die in vain. Try to put both of our stories in there and save some people from it. And like AA, I asked for help. I Googled. I found a way to write it. I just wrote it. My biggest thing is just do it, like, and figure it out later. And
Yeah.
yeah, and it came together. And by the grace of God, that one number one new release, December 23, for like all genres on Amazon.
Yeah. I saw that
But
on one of your posts, I think yesterday. I was looking through it. Talk me through the book. You mentioned it's your story, your brother's story. Um, what is it about, and kind of how did you like structure it to go through y'all's life?
so yeah, essentially, like, overall, it's my story. My brother has a chapter because I didn't want to, he wasn't an addict like me. And I didn't, it was very hard to like depict part of his story without him here and his
Mhm.
approval. It's a very fine line to cross. So it's basically my story from beginning to end. But the way I structured it is, I believe there's 12 chapters. It was a lot since going on since then. I remember some people asked me, "Oh, this part was great." I was like, "Damn, I put that in the book." But
I
it's
guess it's your own
basically,
life, so like you can get confused if it was in there or not.
yeah, and it was very tough to figure out like what to put in, what would hurt my parents or my grandparents that are going to read this. What has to be in there to help other people
Mhm.
so they could qualify. But it's basically goes through the 12 steps each chapter and how it depicts. So if it's about like step one, you know, unmanageability, step that chapter is going to be about like how all my struggles, like this is how unmanageable my life was. And then
Yep.
when it comes to amends, it talks about me doing amends and helping others on step 12. And so I kind of based it at that. Every chapter has part of my story and after the lesson. So you're reading a story and you're into it, and at the end it's like, if you didn't get it already, here's how this applies to getting sober. And
Nice.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
With with the release, were you nervous about it? I'm sure you were to a certain point, but like, how'd you feel it might go? And then, it ends up going number one in some on Amazon and whatnot. But how did you feel like going into it? And then once it was released, what was your feeling?
Yeah, I think when I was writing it, I learned to speak things into existence, but I was like, this book's never going to be done. Like, like there's just a lot. And I was typing till 2 a.m. I was actually bartending in Yonkers at a big Irish place overnights, basically, till 4 a.m. And I'd come type in the day, type at night. So I was like, this thing's never going to finish. And but I kept my head down. And, I like risks. I'm an addict. I like to gamble, throw it online. So I spoke in existence. Like, I'm going to try and get this top 10 new release. And like Brandon Novak had a book come out at the same time. Like, in my head, like,
Uh,
deep down, I'm like, it probably won't happen, but I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna work towards it. And the second I actually, the week it was coming to publish, as an addict, most addicts I've dealt with, and especially myself, I don't do well with change,
mhm.
even being good changes. So extreme anxiety the week it came, because now as an addict, I worry about what are people gonna think of me? What if I sell zero? What if I
Sure.
sell a million? Like, either or is bad. I find bad in everything. So I'm like, I started getting a little nervous. Press publish with my parents on FaceTime. girlfriend's in there, and I started just bawling. I think gratitude. I think the fact that I couldn't call my brother and tell him. I
Mhm.
think gratitude of knowing how happy and proud he must be watching. Some a wave of emotions. And then I watched it, and I was like, maybe we can get top 10. And I remember I was just about to go out with some friends, and I hit refresh, and it was like my book at number one. And I was like, oh shit.
Dang,
I was like,
that's
what did I do
crazy.
here? Yeah. So it was cool, but I used like TikTok as marketing, social media. I was already really well known in this whole area of Connecticut.
Mhm.
So between a lot of local buys and then the outreach, TikTok is crazy. The outreach, people buying in the UK, Canada, all over the country.
Nice.
Uh, yeah, just went from there.
Crazy. With, you mentioned a few times you've, like, were managing a bar, working a bar, bartending. Was that difficult? And, during being sober, especially from, bars are such an active place for drugs and alcohol. Um, was that difficult for you? And kinda how did you manage that?
So it wasn't the beginning. I mean, that I wasn't spiritually fit to be there. So, like I said, I would relapse every couple months.
Mhm.
I would white knuckle it, for 30 days and then relapse. Then I finally realized, my sponsor was like, "You can do that." He's like, "But you need to actually get sober first. Like, you need to be spiritually fit, which may take about 3 to 6 months. We can fly through the steps in a month, but it's going to take some work and fixing things to feel better." And once I went back, no, I mean, I also beat myself to such a pulp. Like, I failed so many times, made such ass of myself. At some
Mhm.
point, it's like that's just not my answer anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the beginning it was a struggle, and then now I still do it, and I don't. I think a lot of people are like, "Oh my god, you don't like think about it every second you're there," and I'm like, "I don't think about it once. Like that's not my solution anymore."
Mhm.
So yeah, and I think it helps how public I am about my story. It puts a lot of pressure on me. You know what I mean? Whereas
True.
like before I told anyone I was an addict, I'd be going to AA, I'd hide it to myself, and it was okay to relapse. Like my
Mhm.
friends didn't know how bad I was struggling. Like they did it with drugs, but then they were like, "Oh, it's great you got off drugs. Like let's have a drink."
Yeah.
And it was okay to be like, "Hey, yeah, I'll take a beer." Now, even in my any of these local towns, if I say I'll take a beer, there's probably someone in the bar that's gonna grab me, like, "Bro, what are you doing?" Like,
Yeah, sure. It helps you, I mean, it
so
holds you accountable.
exactly.
I've, I've helped, friends get sober and, you know, at first it's like you said, it's if they're not, like, mentally fit, being around it's gonna be really difficult. But I also try to be an example where you can be around it. You can go to weddings, you can go to parties, and, you can still have a great time sober. You just kinda gotta unlock your brain a little bit in a different way. Um, with, with faith, when did faith become, back as a big part of your life, and how's it helped you, now in sobriety?
So like I said, I lost all faith, and the first time I was told to pray and pray on my knees in the morning by a sponsor, I got on my knees by myself and I started laughing. I was at like just cold and dark. I had zero faith. I was like, "This is stupid. Like,
Mhm.
who am I bowing to?" Um, but I kept with it, and right after that, the obsession went away. Things started to get better. Um, the proof was in the pudding. No matter how much faith I didn't have, things just started to work out, and I was like, I tried without for 10 years. Now I've prayed for 3 months. My whole life's turning around. I don't want to drink. I feel good. I'm six pack and ripped. My family relationships are good. I go to sleep peacefully. So the proof was just there for me. God proved it, and I was like, I don't know who God is. I don't know. I wasn't really big on it, like religion, but I was like, this is working, so I'll just keep doing it. And it's got me through everything. I mean, the first thing I did after the cops left my house to tell us about my brother, is I went and prayed after crying for a while and stuff. Kept me sober through that. Say his eulogy, publish the book. To I mean, anything I pray for, if it's meant to be, it just like pops up at the right time. And even today, I've a lot of big things going on now. So that change now can be a lot of weight. Yesterday, I almost felt like I had like an anxiety attack, which I hardly have
Mm,
ever had. I probably had three in my life. And
not
I
fun.
had to no, I had to like slow down a little and be like, yo, keep this simple again, and pray, and then all of a sudden you feel all better again. So
Yeah, that's true. I need to remember that at times more often than not, probably. I let so many things like, so many things going in life that are good things, right? They're positive things. Like if you would ask me 10 years ago, I would have been dreamed of all these things happening, but still a lot of stress that comes with it, and that comes with anxiety. And like you said, addicts like, and not all addicts might be this, but you won't, if you do something, you want to do it right and you want it to be to the best of its ability and you want people to like see it and believe in you. And, it's a lot of pressure that comes with all those things.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are like, "Oh my god, it's epic," and I remember to have fun because my sponsor is a real tough ass, and he's a good guy, and yeah, that's exactly what he says when I call him, and I'm like, "Man, I'm kinda freaking out." He's like, "Dude, you have book signings, you're public speaking, keynote speaker, getting paid, you have a podcast, book, like, bro, you 5 you're yourself 5 years ago would slap yourself in the face being like, "This is everything you
Totally.
dreamed for," but there's also the fear of failure, we don't
Yep.
wanna it's like, you make it to for where you finally wanna make it, and you're like, "Well, I hope I don't fail," so just
Yeah, totally.
remaining like, if God wants it to be, it will.
Yeah, for sure. And I told my wife that this morning. Um, like you just gotta realize how good life is. Like, even though all these stresses are going on, like life's really good. And things will work out how they're supposed to. With with all the things you have going on, how do you make sure to, make time for sobriety and meetings and staying up, staying working the program?
So something actually I just readjusted today, and I think people don't talk about that enough, like, you hear 6 years sober or more, 10, 20, like, someone just, like, did it smoothly, like, all the time, there's, like not all the time, but I'd say, like, once a year, twice a year, at least myself, and I hear a lot of people, just hit a wall, like, take our will back, forget how simple it is,
Mhm.
"I don't need a meeting today," life happens now, I have my own place, never had my own place before, business, I have LLC, I have also so it's like I forget to go to meetings, the last month, I think I've traveled twice, both for a week, I got hit in the face with a softball, broke my face. There's a lot of stuff going on, so it's like, wasn't in the gym for a month because I
Mhm.
physically couldn't, and then it's like, probably been to 2 meetings, but I think the success in that is being uncomfortable and being self-aware at, like, it's getting weird again. Let's
Sure.
break it down. And right after this, actually, I'm meeting with my sponsor for the first time in like a month. Because now it's been so a while. We only meet up like here and there, or meet at
Yep.
meeting. But I knew I should probably reach out and just have a chat with him and catch up.
Sure.
Started out for the workout this morning, praying. I'm going to meditate after I meet with him. So it's being self-aware to know like where's my spiritual bank account. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like I think I've been grinding since December the book came out and slowly helping so many people, forgetting to help myself. And it's like, I got to be me first, and then I can give to everyone. So
Sure.
it's self aware of that kind of
Yeah.
balance.
You really do, like, you gotta take care of yourself, and people say, like, "Oh," like, no at first, I think I would internalize, like, I'm being selfish, but it's like, no, I gotta, like, take care of myself so I can better help the people around me, and, um, with, fitness, I know you've mentioned it a few times, and it's been a huge part of my sobriety and my whole life. Like, I was a huge soccer player and athlete growing up, and I knew when I was, like, feeling good, I was, like, always very active, so it's always been a big part of my life. Even more now, though, like, in sobriety, I think it's just been a huge part of me feeling good on a daily basis is working out. Um, did how was it trying to get into working out, in recovery, especially as an addict? Like, it doesn't feel good to work out ever. But, like, how was that journey when you, like, started to get the addiction of working out and realizing how good it can make you feel?
Yeah, it was really when I came home from rehab. I just looked in the mirror one time and like I said, I was like 140 pounds. And I was at the point where just like, let alone my actions, people just look at me and be like, "Oh, it's an addict." Like I
Mhm.
just was unwell. I was gray.
Frail. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was terrible. And I just remember one guy came in to speak at my rehab, and he just looked like probably me today. He looked like healthy, he looked like he had it together, and he just looked peaceful, and I was just like, damn, I want to get, how the heck did that guy get there? I want to get there. And that in turn mirrored how I could help people just from before anything, at least my physical appearance. And that would sell people on sobriety because I could tell you I'm sober, and then like I could have a thing of Jack Daniels right here. You know what I mean? But it's like if you physically see like crackhead looking, pro athlete looking, it's like something's going well there.
Mhm.
So it was just in my parents' like unfinished basement with the most basic weights and bench and gym and headphones and going for runs every day. And it got that what I call out when I work with someone like those jitters,
Mhm.
where like that's I can make it through a day sober, but I have to black out at night because like the jitters keep bottling up, the anxiety,
Sure.
the just uncomfortableness, whatever. I have bad ADD, and once I started doing it, I just felt like no need to drink. Like if
Yep.
I'm working on myself like this, it brought me a sense of peace. It kind of leveled that anxiety out.
Mhm.
Um, it was great. And that's probably why I didn't feel great yesterday. It's like I haven't worked on like a month, so uh,
It's like the
you know,
foundation for me. Like, like you
yeah,
said, it makes me sleep better. It eases my anxiety. It makes me feel good about myself. It makes me eat better. It makes me, all those things. And also, I like the community that I work out with. Like, so now I'm with people that I enjoy being with. So there's just a lot of positives that come around with it. With with the outlook on addicts, the stigma around addiction. Um, have you noticed it changing at all? I feel like there is more awareness around it, but there's still, very much a stigma around the people who are addicts.
absolutely. I mean, it's definitely improved year after year. Is there still a massive stigma? Yes. Now, I think the stigma I try to kill is both sides, but the addict side of like I don't want a stigma on me. So it's there, but the pressure, because right now one of my facets that I do as like a mental health advocate is I have thousands reach out through TikTok, Instagram for help, and the biggest thing I deal with trying to get people to like so most of them right away need detox treatment, whatever.
Hmm.
So I try to like see what their best options are. Do you have insurance? Do you have a family with money? Can we get
Hmm.
you insurance? And then let's look for the best option for you. Um, the biggest thing is like I just don't want my family to know. It's a stigma on ourselves, and
Yeah,
it's like
true.
they don't want to plan your funeral. They'd rather know you need a little help for 30 days than do what my parents had to do with my brother. And I watched it with my brother. He straight up said to my parents, "I'm like, why didn't you tell us sooner?" Because he didn't say he was suicidal, but he said he was just struggling. And he was like, "Well, I'm a guy. I'm not supposed to feel this way."
Hmm.
And they were like, "Dude, everyone needs that."
Yeah, human
You know?
beings. We all have
Yeah. So
feelings and struggles.
yeah, but I mean, it's definitely getting better. It's cool to see like online, just a whole sober community. How you
Yeah,
found me, like
yeah,
people like Jersey Jerry with a bigger platform than us, even talking about it. Pro sports players, Darren
yeah.
Wallen.
It's definitely
So
become more. People have been people have realized it's okay to talk about it more. Even if you're an addict or not an addict, if you're a family member that had an addict, if you're a family member that had someone die or commit suicide, like I think people are just becoming more open to speaking about it. And I mean, a lot of that too is like families would try and hide it if they had a sibling or a son or daughter, struggling. Like they would hate for the community to know about it. Like they, feel worried that John down the street might know like my daughter's struggling and stuff like, you know, that was all, I think it's still there, but hopefully people are realizing like it's perfectly fine to talk about it. And the more you talk about it, it's going to help so many people. And for people like me and you, the more I talk about it, it just holds me more accountable. So,
exactly.
it's just all positive benefits coming along with it. With with people that reach out to you and they're struggling, um, or they just have things going on that they want to talk about, and what do you normally try and tell them, and if somebody is listening that might need some help, what is your kind of message to them?
The first thing is try the basics. It's amazing to me because I'm sure you understand the sobriety. Like you forget what it's like to be like day one. You know what I mean? You really got to sit. At least for me, like I
Yeah.
got to sit and try to remember. So it's just the uneducation. Schools don't talk about it. I run youth groups for kids, juveniles that have been arrested here and substance abuse. And I asked them the other day, I was just like, even with like fentanyl, I was like, does your school teach you about fentanyl? They're like, no, what's that? I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, it's amazing you're not educated on something that's killing, wiping out a nation.
Hmm.
Uh, but just, people reach out and it's like, what do I do if it's their first time trying? And the main thing I try to say is tell your family, this day and age, talking about the stigma, it's like there's not a family that, whether it's a cousin even or grandparent, there's someone struggles. I mean, there's multiple struggle in my life. And most families I know. But I
Everybody knows
still
somebody, I swear.
exactly. It's like there's this day and age. It's whether it is suicide or addiction or fentanyl or alcoholism, like the someone struggling and
Mhm.
depression. So I just say first reach out to the family. Be honest with your family if you have family. Right away, I try to. The detox and rehab part has been amazing. Like me, it was easy. I just beat myself up so bad there was no question. It was like,
Yeah.
yeah, but a lot of people they just the stigma. They don't want their jobs to know, their family to know. It's
Mhm.
like, oh, but I try to help a lot with because I was blessed that my mom worked in healthcare, so she understood like insurance. So when I did hit heads, she would be like, "Well, we need to sign you up for this insurance or buy this
Mhm.
insurance, so you get the right care." So it's really just like, hey, get the detox, get the rehab. There's a ton of resources. You know what I mean? And you spend a couple $100 insurance, and you get great options. They'll pay 40K for you to go, so you don't
Yeah.
need 40. Like, a lot of people, even in my TikToks, comment like, "Oh, you must have a rich daddy. You went to rehab." Like, I think my parents paid $2,000 in total for 7 rehabs.
Yeah. There's
So
ways
it's,
to do it, and people don't realize that, but, it's really good for people to understand that there's always a way to figure it out.
yeah, then that's why I people like there's no way I could do it. And I do 3 things for them, and they're on a plane. I'm like, yeah, it's like and I get it because like if I didn't have my parents, I would have never went to like I couldn't even like pay a bill. I
Mhm.
still struggle with like basic stuff.
Sure.
I'm like I'm just an addict, so it's like I force myself to do the basics. But it's yeah, it's that, and that there is help out there. For me, it was 12 steps. There's a million people that want to help you out there for free. Like even that kind of stuff I do is for free. I just
Mhm.
direct people in my free time. But to get the help and to work on yourself and to know that there is hope and people like you and myself are out here to listen to that. I mean, if we made it, no reason you can't.
Totally. Well, man, I just, wanna thank you for joining me and sharing your story, and, like you said, I mean, there's tons of hope in seeing people like yourself and, even me, and, sobriety and a better life is possible, and I think recognizing that is kind of the biggest thing sometimes for people. I know it was for me. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for all the things you do and being open about your story and, the numerous other things that you do to help out, but thank you for coming on.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me. It was nice to meet you in chat.
You too.